When Orange is the New Black first began, it offered a fresh take on life behind bars. Faith.
Corrupt my air!
Mental illness.
I made my own couture.
And transgender identity are all examined, introducing viewers to a cast of characters and issues. While in prison, the real Piper was struck by the prevalence of race and class. She turned her experience into a best-selling memoir. That blonde hair, that privilege, all based on real-life Piper Kerman.
My name is Piper Chapman.
Good you, Blondie. What'd you do?
Carried a suitcase of drug money once, 10 years ago.
I'm scared that I'm not myself in here, and I'm scared that I am no different from anybody else in here. I committed a crime. Being in here is no one's fault but my own.
When people first meet me, they do not necessarily leap to the conclusion ex-con.
What do people get wrong about what life is like in prison?
On one end of the spectrum is the fantasy that every single prison or jail is a place of uncontrollable violence. So in reality, as much as half of our prison and jail population are folks who are there for nonviolent offenses. I reflect upon the things that drive crime in the case of women. And those things are really clear. We know what they are. It's substance abuse, it's mental illness, and it is the experience of violence, whether sexual violence or other physical violence, in a person's personal history.
You also seem to suggest that the system is a bit corrupt, or at least massively unfair.
Well, in the US, what we see as the biggest determinant of who will end up in prison is not necessarily who is most likely or who is inclined to commit a crime, but race and class. The main thing that we should be most concerned with is having fewer people who have felony convictions. More citizens need to be free of government control in their everyday lives, and that requires legislative change.
So America locks up more of its people than any other nation in the world by far. You know, in about 1980, we had approximately 500,000 people in prison, and now we have 2.3 million locked up. Not only people who are violent and dangerous, but also people who are inconvenient.
There was a study that came out recently showing that we have more severely mentally ill people behind bars in America than we have in psychiatric hospitals.
They need to go into the public health system if we want to change that. And there is a very compelling reason to change it, because I can tell you from personal experience, putting mentally ill people in prison and jail does not make them better. It makes them less healthy.
And this needs to change, because as a nation, we are in a bad place when it comes to incarceration. I got shipped on the federal airlift. Now, some people think that Con Air is just a movie. It's real. I think often of the federal airlift. I think about those hundreds of men and women and the things that I have in common with them. Every single one of those men and women on those planes had a story, their own life story, and also a story about the criminal justice system. I ask you, if you have a story from behind prison walls, I want you to share it. Because when people know the real stories of real people, then they will recognize that our incarceration mania is a real problem. Thank you.